I've always had a fascination for space. Never been too interested in the names of the constellations. Couldn't be bothered to track where planets were in the sky at any given time either. And I don't think I had quite the focus, or ironically the space, for a telescope. But it was my favourite physics module at college, plus who doesn't get a feeling of awe when staring into the void? It was probably the Hale bop that started it all off, being able to see it and its huge long tail shooting out behind it in the night sky. It must have been 1997 because the TV miniseries Asteroid was on, and it was about the same sort of time, and I was pretty much traumatised by it in that bit where the fireman lost his vision in a fire. But this was all one-upped massively when I saw The Thing a few years later and then talked about it in Show and Tell and got stopped midway through, and then all of my creative writing exercises became variants of Daddy threw a match at the monster and the blood squirted out as it killed Mummy. But all things considered, I think I've turned out okay. Where was I? Ah yes, space. We all have that feeling, don't we? Impossible to describe, but you feel it when picturing vast, dark landscapes a billion miles from ours, lonely, chilling craters, or awe-inspiring sunrises on an alien planet we'll never see in our lifetime. The longing to visit somewhere like that, even though there's fuck all to do there and you wouldn't actually want to be there. As a child, I'd go on cheap family holidays in a caravan to fields in the middle of nowhere. No electricity, no laptop, but the view of the stars from there was incredible. I'd even be able to make out the Milky Way. Or maybe it was just a very long, faint cloud. Who knows? They say space is the final frontier, but let's be honest, I think the internet has trumped it. Why spend years travelling to a distant rock when you could instead access 9.47 million pornographic videos with just a click of a button? A few years ago I discovered Space Engine, and it has quenched my lust for space ever since. Why spend years travelling to a distant rock when you could instead access 9.47 trillion stars with just a click of a button? I even made a video about it over on 3kliksphilip, back when 3kliksphilip was sort of 2kliksphilip as well, and 2kliksphilip didn't know what the hell he was. While my fascination with space exploration may have been satisfied, I set my sights on another goal. Not something massive, but I had always kind of wanted to photograph the Milky Way. Back in 2014, Vexy visited, and late one night we went to the middle of nowhere, and she spent the best part of an hour stood around freezing while I took long exposures of the sky with a hand-me-down camera from my parents. It wasn't particularly good at low light, and I wasn't particularly good at photography, so we suited each other brilliantly. It wasn't until I got home that I could see just how grainy all of the pictures were. Actually, this is a great opportunity to try the AI denoiser I have. Enhance! 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 Oh god, I tell a lie. I did take one picture with a very long exposure that turned out pretty well, but I still wasn't satisfied and promised myself that I'd do better one day. Fast forward to 2017 and I went on a family holiday to the Lizard. Again, it was in the middle of nowhere to a place with minimal light pollution. One night it was so clear I could make out the Milky Way. For real. Oh, if only my 4K camera was good in low light. I stood there for ages staring up at it, annoyed that I hadn't brought my still camera. The following year, I did have my good camera, the Panasonic GH5, but it was cloudy. After that, I started practicing around Plymouth. Obviously, it being a city, it's not the ideal place to take pictures of stars from, but I was still able to take some fairly decent ones, including this one of the Orion Nebula. Turns out I can be bothered to remember the names of things after I've managed to capture them in a picture. Plus, realising that these things are big and bright enough to be visible to the naked eye gives me enthusiasm. Before this, I just assumed that you'd need an impossibly large telescope for the remotest chance of seeing anything. And then finally, on a family holiday this year, it all came together. The weather was clear, and now armed with the GH5S, I was in with a better chance than ever to photograph the Milky Way. I had even brought a gorilla pod, just in case. And I got myself these pictures. And with it, another one of my smaller, less important life goals was accomplished. I even found Jupiter and its 4 moons. But wait, what's this? Hidden in the corner of one of my pictures was a white blob, surrounded by an even fainter white blob. I believe I accidentally managed to capture Andromeda, which is the closest galaxy to the Milky Way. Now, the next time I'm in the middle of nowhere, I plan to find it and to take a closer-up picture of it. Space isn't something I'm interested enough in to invest real time or money into. I'm not exactly going to take a trip to the desert next week to get better pictures. Honestly, computers have spoiled me, and when it comes to space, there are people who can do things with it a lot better than I ever will. Had I grown up in a different era, I think that space would have had a larger part to play in my life. But as it is, the night sky is simply a curiosity to me. a reason to go outside when I should be sleeping, something to prop my physics grade up with, and a hell of a lot of fun to photograph.